What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, and today we're going to take a look at Beauty in Storybook Brawl, which I think is a hero that is good, but not great. And I think that in some ways that's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I don't think Beauty is that great. I don't play her that often, which means I'm not super comfortable when I am playing her and don't do as well, which leads me to further think that she's not that great. But a lot of players on the mythic tier, mythic caliber of players, do think she's a pretty good hero, do potentially think she's a great hero even, and that means I should probably play her more and experiment with her a little bit, so that's what I am doing today. I'm giving her an honest shot. I think that she also tends to place pretty well on tier lists as well, so there's definitely something to it. And getting to pick up unicorns and labyrinth minotaurs to start the game, that's definitely going to give you some of your biggest strengths. Could have gone for the black cat there as well, maybe I should have. That will definitely be more synergistic with some of the things that we want to pick up down the line. And I will say, I feel like I get pretty lucky this game, though just I don't know what to do in the end game with my comp effectively. If I'm supposed to play good, if I'm supposed to play evil, and I wind up playing kind of a weird amalgamation of both that just doesn't really work for us. But definitely a good start to the game, like I said, and a lot of options here on 3.0. I want to pick up Brave Princess because it's 3.0. Black Cat also looks good, and then Cindy also looks good. So just a ton of options across the board. We could also pick up a Vampire and True Love's Kiss It. And I'm going to lock on here. I don't know if the plan is to True Love's Kiss the Vampire next turn, or potentially grab Cindy and grab that, put that in the mix. But yeah, just a lot of options everywhere, and we'll see where we want to go with this one. But I like getting to pick up a Brave Princess, of course, on 3.0. That's always really strong. And we are super, super strong for this point in the game, what we've been able to do. And then we continue to get super stronger. A Wicked Witch is a really, really fantastic unit, and so is Queen of Hearts. Those are both just all-stars. And awkward that I wind up not picking up anything that I locked onto. But yeah, I think that this is just really fantastic. And then I also want to play the Rainbow Unicorn. Other than that, I'm like basically playing a full evil board, but the Rainbow Unicorn will help keep our Queen of Hearts alive. So there's just a lot of neat synergies going on. Plan is to next turn pick up Cindy plus Vampire, plus sell the Baby Brute, and then pick up one more level 3 character. And then after thinking about that, I'm like, well, I actually think we've got 2 really good level 3 characters already, and maybe I just shouldn't lock, and I should be looking for more Queen of Hearts on Beauty. So ultimately decide to unlock there, so that way I can look for more of the characters that I already have some copies of. Ogre Princess, pretty reasonable with the Wicked Witch, so I'm definitely considering that. I'm also considering Beauty's influence on the Queen of Hearts. That will allow me to cut it, or cut the Rainbow Unicorn rather, and then I won't have to worry about playing that character, but still am able to dodge falling stars. So that's kind of the idea here. And then we find a Princess Peep, which works really well with Wicked Witch. So this board is a little bit weird. We are playing, we don't have any pairs, right? We are about to grab a tier 3 treasure from Brave Princess, so that part is nice, but otherwise we don't have any pairs, and I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about the whole thing. So I think that we're building some nice econ with the Ogre Princess. We do have the treasure from Brave Princess as well, and then we're also just really strong. So that's kind of what I'm just going for in this one. Queen of Hearts is fantastic with Princess Peep when you're playing Beauty, so all of that is really sweet. And then Ancient Sarcophagus versus Treasure Map. I feel like Ancient Sarcophagus is just textbook Beauty. So that's why I go for it here. I could certainly see going for the treasure map because we're already really strong, but this is one of my first times trying out beauty, and I wanted to try ancient sarcophagus on the hero, so that's what we are going to roll with. I do want to give a shout out to the Court Wizard 2 shops ago. We are going to see another one right here. I do have a lot of royals, which is kind of funny. You don't think about having so many royals in this evil comp. But we've got a lot to potentially make work here. Now, I'm ultimately just going to wind up going all in on the Ancient Sarcophagus and then also playing the Queen of Hearts on the backline. Just have to dodge the Ring of Meteors there, and we do, though my opponent's double Soul Tack Ancient might make the Ancient Sarcophagus a little bit awkward. It's an ancient versus ancient battle, and it looks like we're going to be okay regardless, though my opponent is going to soak up some triggers there. We're just going to have 2 insanely large queens to close it out. So pretty good stuff, and now I probably want XP. I think that I do want to take this lead because I have played for strength almost this entire time, and I haven't really played for setup, so XP is fantastic here. And then we see Fairy Godmother. Now, it's awkward because we're going to be level 5 next turn, but Fairy Godmother, I think, is a pretty good new character to play on beauty. I don't think you probably wanted to play Fairy Godmother before because throwing around a bunch of health isn't as exciting, but being able to give all of your characters +3/+3, at the very least, it's better than the Wicked Witches that we're already playing. And the fact that there is a pair of them in this shop means I think it's probably worth going for them here. So I'm going to lock onto this pair of Good Witches, and we'll see how we're able to fit everything on the board. I think I might have to frontline one of these Queens of Hearts just to make it all fit. But I think that that will be the right thing to do. Ancient Sarcophagus triggers are going to make it so that Friendly Spirit is my opponent's last character remaining. Pretty silly. And then I could also pick up a pair of Fannies here. We grab a free Fanny off the Ogre Princess. I'm just going to sell that for econ. I don't really care about it. And then we will throw one of those queens in the front line, like I said. And we also get to throw the Beauty's influenced one in the front line. So a little bit less likely to die early on in the combat. We have the option to sell 2 things and pick up Baby Bear here, but I'm going to dodge that, and then I'm going to True Love's Kiss the Ogre Princess, hoping to find a Queen of Hearts. That is one cool thing on this hero, is how you can abuse True Love's Kiss, or not True Love's Kiss, Shard of the Ice Queen. I might have said True Love's Kiss both times there, but yeah, Shard of the Ice Queen, I think, getting to be pretty cool on the hero. And then I'm going to lock onto another Fairy Godmother. Could sell off my bench to pick it up and be down a unit. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, actually, though, because then I would just backline both queens, and that would be somewhat reasonable. My opponent also has an Ancient Sarcophagus, though they do not get nearly as many triggers as we do. They do get to take out our Fairy Godmother, but that's not going to be enough. And now we get to grab the upgraded Fairy Godmother and grab a tier 4 treasure. And for that, I'm going to go for Forking Rod. Not exactly sure what Forking Rod is doing here. I go for the double for Glory. And then there's another interesting option in the shop. 2 interesting options, really. There's a 9C Terror, which is bigger than a Shoulder Fairies, but then Shoulder Fairies, which is a little bit more synergistic with Beauty and kind of fun for that capacity. I do think we might grab additional tier 5 treasures or tier 5 characters if we win this turn, so that's definitely up for consideration. And then, of course, Shoulder Fairies does get bigger after we pick up the 9C Terror, so that's definitely something to consider as well. But I think that 9C Terror just by itself is probably good enough. I think that my other options were Deck of Many Things and 3 of Shields, right? So nothing super exciting or impressive. Forking Rod, just kind of a good treasure, allows us to potentially do some silly things, and that's why I wind up picking it up. We get to double for Glory here against the Miri. We are at 40 health. We're doing pretty good. Like, this is still a pretty reasonable showing for this hero, all things considered, and now it's just about how we can translate it into the end game and find ourselves a winning comp. We could pick up Lancelot here if we'd like to. It shouldn't be that difficult to activate with Forking Rod, though there's some other potential interesting things with Forking Rod here. We could even Shrink Spell. Oh, that's right, I did need to mention this in the previous shop. The Time Flies, I think, could be a pretty reasonable unit. I'm going to wind up using Forking Rod on Feed the Kraken to allow us to pick up Time Flies for free here, and then I'm basically just going to roll for Nyan Sea Terror and see if we can find that before the end of the turn. We do see some pigs, but not really much else, so we're just going to go all in on this Time Flies plan. I lock onto the Queen of Hearts going into 6.0. I'm not sure how long you want to keep Queen of Hearts on the board, but so far, I mean, this whole game's a little bit tricky. We've really just been playing tempo. We haven't really drifted into a comp because summons do just tend to fall off later into the game. So maybe we can make summons work. That probably doesn't include Queen of Hearts regardless, though. So that is kind of a tricky thing to consider, is that even, Queen of Hearts probably isn't long for this comp regardless. Now, Crystal Ball is fun with Forking Rod. There's also an Aeon here, and I definitely think that that is worth considering. The problem is this lobby is close to being over. This is what keeps happening in all of my games recently. I'm sure you guys are experiencing the same thing. It's 6.0, well, really it's 5.2, and the lobby's gone. So that definitely adds some interesting implications to the game. I'll pick up the Bear Stain, fire off the Masquerade Ball after that to fill my shop with tier 6 characters, and here's where we can potentially do beauty things. My camera just died, sorry about that, but we'll go cameraless to finish out the video. Good Boy and Pumpkin both are a little bit stronger on beauty because you can just play them regardless of the rest of your comp, though both still want support, and this is why I'm a little bit conflicted on beauty. Now, I'm gonna buy both of these characters because I want to try out a comp that you wouldn't normally otherwise be able to try out. And I should have probably picked up the Shrink Spell there as well, just because I was going to buy 2 of these characters. It's a little bit late to go for it now, so a little bit awkward, but that allows me to double Beauty's influence on the Good Boy, give that +8 health, I guess, calculated. It all worked out. But here's the thing. Good Boy and Pumpkin are not synergistic with each other. One is grow wide, one is grow tall. Pumpkin wants to make a bunch of different creatures. That's what we call growing wide in some games, at least in Soul Forge. That's what we called it. Whereas Big Boy over there, Good Boy, wants to make a bunch of big characters, specifically a few really big characters to be able to survive the fight ultimately. And they're just not really synergistic in any meaningful way. So I think that makes it a little bit awkward to play some of these beauty comps, and I wanted to try out this comp specifically, but let me know if you are somebody that likes to play beauty. Do you just go one way or the other and ignore the potential Good Boy plus Pumpkin comp? Because I think that's probably the way to go. I probably want to sell something here to make use of a Hercules, and unfortunately it's probably the Queen of Hearts, which is a more synergistic card, but not ultimately helping us too much here. Good Boy plus the Hercules is, well, I should say 13 plus 34 is 47, and that means that a Godmother can put us over the edge here. Now 15 plus 36 is 51, which will allow a new breakpoint for Hercules, allowing that to activate in just 2 combats. So I think that's worth going for. Then there's also a Lancelot in this shop, and I probably should have sold off my 2 Princess Peeps and tried to pick up the Lancelot to grab another tier 5 treasure. I think that some treasures could have potentially sent me in an interesting direction and just given me a different way to go for this game. So that's definitely something that I should have considered. We are going to activate the Hercules, so that was really nicely calculated there. And then I get to pick up a tier 6 treasure, and Singing Sword just works so well with, I mean, it works well with Good Boy, but it also works well with Pumpkin and all of these princess peeps that we have. So I'm gonna go for Singing Sword here and see what we can do with that. I'll triple up on the princess peep after that, still potentially looking for the treasure map in this stage of the game, though we don't have too much more game left to play. I get to pick up another Good Boy, which is nice. At the very least, these Good Boys are somewhat synergistic with the Pumpkin because they are tier 6 characters, which means they're going to summon tier 5 characters off the Pumpkin. And tier 5 characters in the front line with that Singing Sword and the Eye of Ares all seems pretty reasonable. I'm going to lock onto a Pigomorph here to round out the game, and hopefully we can kill Zippy the zombie quickly. Zippy is a really scary hero to be in the finals with because there's just such inevitability with that Zippy the zombie hero power, and we're not helping our case with the fact that we are summoning so many things that they're going to get so many free Zippy evil twins. We might even flood their hand with evil twins at this point. And we are also playing a summons comp against a slay comp. Not really the best place to be. So this actually goes pretty awkward for us, and we wind up taking a loss. We take 10 damage down to 30. Pigomorph could potentially steal a win. We'll probably need to win twice, whereas my opponent might need to win like 3 more times. Though my opponent's comp also has built-in scaling, so that's not great for us either. I do like the Echo Wood. I don't actually think I wind up playing it here though. And again, I'm just kind of honestly like a little bit all over the place and not knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do. I do feel like my opponent has a better comp than us, and because of that, I'm supposed to be scamming them. So I wind up locking onto Cupid here. I also pick up the Medusa, and I grab the Pigomorph for the turn, obviously, as well, like I said. But I think that we want to try to scam them because they are favored to win, effectively. Because slaying against a summons comp is just so effective. So we'll see how this one winds up going. We grab a Tweedle off of our Wombats in Disguise, and our Medusa takes out the rest of their front line. We only have one more character in the back line. Can we scam it? No. We wind up grabbing a tie, and I gotta rewind because look at this board that we get off of the Pumpkin. We scam my opponent down to just 1 unit remaining, that River Wish Mermaid in the back line, and then we have Medusa, Cupid, Rotten Applewood, and we still can't find the scam. My opponent has some really, really good attacks there, managing to continually dodge the Applewood. So we got to play a few more games here now, and I think that ties don't favor us. I think that the more ties that we get, the more awkward this game is going to be because the longer this game is going to be. I wind up using Knighthood on the Good Boy because that's a bunch of stats, and I wasn't sure if that was too many stats to pass up. And then I do still kind of want to pick up the Cupid, so I'm kind of just figuring out how to put the Cupid in here at this point. But I don't know, it's awkward. It is tough to scam a slay comp as well. I think that Medusa is one of our better options, though Cupid doesn't always work. If Cupid attacks the Baba Yaga, that's not great, and if Cupid attacks a River Wish Mermaid, that might deny them some slays, it might deny them some Empress P growth, but it's not always just going to be a game winner. My opponent does get the slay with Feasting Dragon here, and they're grabbing plenty of extra econ off of Evil Twin as well, and then just some really big characters. Now, it's still doable if our Medusa can attack into Jormungand, but when Jormungand attacks into Medusa, that makes the combats a little bit tough. So we're going to take a little bit more damage from this one. I think this one is 13 damage down to 17, so still potentially 2 more fights out of this, but it's not looking good. It's looking good, it's not looking great, right? We've done some things, but ultimately I think that we fall a little bit short. I decided to put a Cupid in the front line for this one, and we don't need the singing sword on the Cupid. That part's a little bit awkward, but I think that the only way that we get out of this is by hitting some lucky scams against my opponent. So I'm going to pick up another Cupid, and then there's another good boy in this shop, and I wind up locking onto it. I'm not sure if that is right either. I think that we should just be going full scam. We've already put so much into the good boy, and I think that that makes it awkward. It's also our only real chance here of grabbing a tier 6 treasure, which seems like it could be useful. But ultimately, I think that a lot of these things are kind of a distraction. Cupid hitting into the Baba Yaga is terrible, does absolutely nothing, just somewhat damages the Baba Yaga, and we do have the chance for Medusa to attack into either the Empress P or the Jormungand here, and it does find the Empress P, so that's nice. That will deny my opponent some stats on that front, but it's still going to be a tough one. Cupid is not able to make 2 of my opponent's characters trade, but the next Cupid could maybe make 2 of my opponent's characters attack into them, and we're actually just barely able to get another tie here. But a lot of stuff going on in that combat too. I think that we were pretty well off when we cracked the pumpkin and still had a backline of Medusa, Cupid. It seemed pretty good from that perspective, but it doesn't seem good overall is basically what I'm getting at. We pick up the good boy and then we roll it down for the rest of the turn. Adding another good boy to the board, like, they do compound on each other. These are going to be super easy slays, but it'll give us some big units. But the problem is that allowing my opponent to have slays means that it doesn't matter if I have big units, because my opponent's units are just bigger. Now, if Cupid can kill off one of the River Wish mermaids, that could really impact my opponent in some capacities, and I believe we are able to do that on this one. We'd probably rather attack into that first River Wish mermaid just to stop my opponent's early slays, because then they are going to eventually slay and pop off there. And then they kill the Medusa, and we're left with a frontline Cupid and a backline Cupid, but I don't think that's going to be enough. We do get to keep the frontline Cupid for a second, but then Jormungand attacks into it, and they also get to attack into my other one. So we take 10 down to 7. This is a really, really long and drawn out game. We could still turn it around though. And Great Pumpkin is good. We could have also, or Crockbait rather, we could have also crocked the upgraded Good Boy and put Bear Stain back in. That was something that I did not really consider, but maybe should have. And then we see another Pumpkin, and again, I have no clue if I'm supposed to go for this here. Probably. But it's definitely a little bit awkward, and then I'm going to wind up just rolling down, trying to throw a little bit more something on the board, and ultimately decide to just use this Witch's Brew on the Good Boy, give ourselves a little bit more stats, and we'll see if this is enough. We did add a whole nother pumpkin to the board, which could be good. Depending on when that gets attacked into, well, okay. That's terrible for us. Maybe Cupid can deny my opponent some River Wish Mermaid Slays, and it does, but I just sadly don't think that this one's going to be enough. Getting first attack, hugely important for just how the math of all of this works out. That allows my Medusa to get in there and attack early. Now, we do have a really strong backline here, so that's good, though my opponent is going to clear my entire front line before I even get to use the back line, and then they're going to clear me. They hit us for 16 and leave us in second place. So there you go. There's beauty. There is kind of why I think the hero is good and not great, but I'm also still trying to figure out exactly what makes the hero tick, and honestly, I should probably look to play Beauty a little bit more. It was pretty strong in the early game. I think that if I played again, like, part of me wants to just say, when I play Beauty, use the early game strength from the tier 2 and tier 3 synergies, plus now Godmother on level 4, to get to level 6 quickly and in a good position to then just play trees or something like that and go into a comp that I'm just a little bit more familiar with. And the other part of me really wants to try to make Good Boy and the Great Pumpkin work because it is a unique comp to just this hero. So we'll see. Let me know if you have ever made this comp specifically work on Beauty, or if you find that it's better to just roll off and play something else. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Legs Given. Peace.